Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Folks, welcome back to the show where we get our signals crossed, but our swords always are. It is Sabres Game Night, brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case for all your January festivities heading into this late winter. But heading into this late winter, the Sabres are heading on the road for a West Coast road trip, and they start off tonight in Dallas. Let's get our all-star panel, and we've got Gatesy35, and we've got intern Vinny. What did I do to his video?
Might be better.
He was there, then it disappeared. But while we wait for him to reappear, while we wait for Vinny to reappear, Gatesy, the Sabres momentum reappeared this past week in the form of Ryan Miller, the retirement night, and obviously him dropping that puck on Saturday.
Yeah, it's crazy that Ryan Miller game, seemingly in the middle of January, couldn't have come in a better time for the Sabres. As we know this team can be streaky as ever, and unfortunately they're at the point in one of their lower points in the season, and that game happened, and they've really just turned the season around. It almost felt like we're in those must-win November games all over again, but this time in January, and the team delivered. They scoring goals. UPL, I think he's him right now, if I had to guess. Rumor has it he's him, and it seems fun to watch again, so I'm excited for this week.
Yeah, I was worried about that last slump because it seemed like they were doing exactly what the Sabres had done in the past, just slightly later in the year, right? Like in the past, good month of November, momentum carrying into December, get towards Christmas, maybe people buy some things from the Sabres store because the Sabres are good again and the holidays, and then January hits and New Year's resolution is not win more than 2 games in a row the rest of the season. This Sabres team at least has made it to the tail end of January, still with a little bit of momentum, and they're back on the upswing, which is great to see. But a lot of games in a short amount of time here, so their energy and ability to sort of stack those wins is going to be really important here.
Hey, we've talked about it, whether it was the midseason podcast last week. This team is streaky, and hopefully they're getting streaky at the right time here, because obviously, like you alluded to, it is a 3-game road trip out west that starts tonight at Dallas. No, lack of history there between them and the Sabres. But talking about these teams, real quick, is this the toughest game of the 3 of these next gauntlet? I know we have 4 games in the next 6 days. But do you guys view this as the toughest of the 3?
I think definitely it's going to be the start of the road trip, and you want to come out with the right foot forward. And Dallas is, a team that's really made some strides this year. They have some really young players. Ottinger's had a great year in net, and I think these teams the Dallas might be like a year ahead of the Sabres in terms of development. Like, they're in the playoffs right now. They've got that young core with some veterans on it. And if the Sabres can come out tonight and get that win, I think it proves that this streak's not all, the Ryan Miller momentum.
Yeah, I'll use one of my favorite phrases, Gatesy. That's a really good point. But in all seriousness, you're playing a team tonight that is a makeup that you haven't really seen a lot this season. You're playing one of the best goal scorers in the NHL in Jason Robertson right now. And Jake Ottinger is the starting goalie for the Stars. He's got the second best save percentage, or goals against average, in the NHL. So you're playing, and the Sabres, that was one of the criticisms early during that first streak, was they still were like the Sabres of the past in that they got wins against backup goalies. You're seeing now, you just played Sorokin, who's one of the hottest goalies in the NHL this year, and now you're playing Ottinger, who's, again, one of the best young goalies in the league. that's going to be a tough test for this team. You got to capitalize on the chances that you get, because against a team like the Stars and a goalie like Jake Ottinger, you can't afford to not capitalize on your chances, because you won't get very many.
Seriously, let's talk about this guy. Jake Yeo, 2.2 goals against average, 926 save percentage. So this is kind of a completely different game than the Sabres are used to, because let's face it, if they're going to get 3, maybe 4 on this guy, I mean, that's the best you could really hope for against a guy with numbers like that. So with that said, I know that, Granato's probably not going into some huge speech in the pregame, but if you were him meeting with the coaches today and prep for this game, how are you maybe attacking the Stars a little bit differently?
I'd say you got to keep it similar to that Islanders game you faced Sorokin, that just, keep going and going, and eventually you're going to get 1, you're going to get 2. It's just, limiting the Stars' chances on the back end, and thankfully UPL made some big saves that last game. But, Islanders still human. They're going to score goals. It's whether they can weather some of that Dallas storm and get out there with 2 points, because he's not going to have a shot at every single game he plays.
Right, and I think the point about the Islanders game, and I think there was certainly a good amount of discourse on Twitter about like the fans at that game, because you had probably a lot of people in attendance that night that I'll say like it's a possibility there were quite a few people there that hadn't really been to Sabres games in a while, possibly. That's mostly speculation, but there was a lot of shoot yelling from the crowd, which, like, to talk hockey, the nitty gritty for a second, when you're facing a hot goalie, the last thing you want to do is just shoot from anywhere. Like, that is possibly the worst thing you could do because the hot goalie is just going to get hotter, because all he's seeing is low percentage chances.
They're not allowing those juicy rebounds. They're not allowing those softies. Yeah. So there's no use in peppering them.
Yeah. So, like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're walking at the top of the circles and you have a shooting lane, instead of dropping the puck, maybe you shoot it, but, like, that's not really the best philosophy. So same thing might be said tonight. Yeah, you're going to want to get a lot of shots on net in, because mathematically speaking, he's going to save 93% of the shots that you're going to shoot, or something.
92.6.
Okay, right. You're right. So you're only looking at scoring 7.4% of your shots. So you need to get a high volume of shots to mathematically score enough goals to win this game against a team that can also score a lot of goals. That's the bind you find yourself in tonight's game, at least. It'd be a good bit of momentum for the Sabres if they could find some solutions to get past Ottinger. The key to that might be scoring on the power play, if you get power play opportunities.
Yeah, I think it was all well said. And speaking of the numbers game, I know we've been saying it all day. 4 games in 6 days, 3 games against the top of the Central here. But it is young man Andy in net today. So we got a little discrepancy. We got Jake Ottinger, mid-20s. We got Craig Anderson at 41. 699 starts or career games played versus 112. So quite a discrepancy in the experience here. But with that said, is it maybe, because I see some, there's back and forth here on the Sabres post with Craig Anderson starting and things like that. You think that's the right call to start off with the veteran and what's going to probably be a tough, gritty matchup?
I mean, the word on the street is 41's the new 21. And I think, with this road stretch coming up, it's nice to get some veteran presence. And in my personal opinion, I do think Anderson is getting a lot of starts in net for his age. Like, there's a lot of discourse on Comrie on Twitter, but he's not someone I dislike in net. Obviously, we're going to run UPL as the one. But I think with we have 40 games left this year, a little less. Like, if Anderson gets to 710 games played, I think that'd be enough for him. But I think to start the road trip, get some leadership out there, and then you can kind of run UPL the rest of the trip, maybe get Comrie a game and get this team going.
Yeah, I also think Comrie should probably be the one getting the start more often than Anderson. Like, I feel like that's your order. Your order should be UPL, then Comrie, then Anderson. I think it's a similar situation to sort of how this organization trusts Anderson to a certain extent. I don't think anybody in the Sabres is going to tell you that, Anderson's most likely going to pitch a shutout on any given night, because that's just not going to happen. But I think they rely on him to be able to, his experience and his composure is probably the thing they're looking for most. But I don't necessarily think the matchup is that much better with him in net. But I'm happy to see those milestones. I was there for when he got his 300th career win, and that was really, really cool to see. I don't know that I've ever rooted for a player who's played as little games for the Sabres as I root for Craig Anderson, it's very funny, but he's just a likable guy.
He's got to lead the league in faceoffs won as well for a goalie, right? 1-0 on the year?
Yeah, can we talk about that? I mean, that was NHL history. We're putting together, textbooks on the Sabres season for sure. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
No, that definitely in the history books from now on.
Seriously.
That was awesome. I'm glad they did that. That was that 48-hour span for the Sabres was very, very well done.
Seriously, kudos to them and the organization. And again, it's kind of like you said at the very start of the show. I think it was actually Vinny. Typically these teams fall off November, December the last couple of years. We're well into January. We're making runs. So this is a big 9-day stretch. These next, we got 5 games in 9 days. Am I right there?
Yeah, because I think we go right from here into the All-Star break, or am I wrong?
I believe we do. So we got, let's see, scroll me down here. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 5 in the next 9 days. Yeah, so again, big stretch here, obviously, in the next week and a half. And let's see, get it started. What do we got for a prediction tonight, gents? Sabres, Stars, Jake Ottinger, Craig Anderson. Who you got?
I think with the way things are going, I'm going to go 4-3 overtime. Sabres win. And I think a little someone called Jack Quinn finds, the score sheet again, because it's been a minute, and I think he gets there tonight.
I saw the over-under was 6.5. Despite Craig Anderson starting in goal, I'm going to take the under on this game. And I have to say, I do kind of like the Stars tonight. Seems like it's not the Sabres' fault. This isn't the Sabres' fault. But it seems like games like this, the Sabres I'm going to take a step back from hockey for a second. A lot of times this year, the Sabres have acted as like a short-term pick-me-up for a lot of Buffalo sports fans. There's been times where the Bills have maybe lost regular season games. Sabres maybe pick up a win later that week. Had a lot of emotional, milestones throughout the year, sports-related and non-sports related, that the Sabres were able to, at times, act as a pick-me-up. I think this, right now, the lull that the city is feeling after yesterday, is another one of those sort of emotional peaks and valleys type days that, because it's so sports related, it seems like historically the city has not gotten a lot of help, and I don't think they will get help tonight. I'm going to take a 4-1 Sabres loss tonight and just make people really, really sad for like the rest of the week. It just seems on par for all of the good times they've given us this year. At some point, it was bound to just really lump it on, sort of kick us while they're down. I just have a bad feeling about tonight's game.
You really kicked me when I was down. Sheesh. You took me on an odyssey right there.
I'm sorry. I wish I could lie, but then I would be a liar, and then maybe I would be wrong. So I'd rather be wrong and the Sabres win and be happy than, because if the Sabres lose, then I was right. But if I'm wrong and the Sabres win, then I at least have something is going well at some point along that. Whereas if I predict the Sabres win and then they lose, I'm double sad.
Okay. Well, we don't want anyone to be double sad here on Crossing Swords Pod. No. I got 4-2, and I got 2 goals from Victor Olofsson. To the Victor go the goals. I don't know. I feel like he's been hot recently. And, he's a guy who, like the Sabres, when they get hot, they kind of tend to stay hot, very streaky. Hopefully you stay hot with us, following along on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple. Shout out to our panel, intern Vinny, Gatesy. Make sure you go to the place to buy a case. Outlet Liquor for all of your needs for this winter season, and let's hope for the tonight season the Sabres can pull out a dub. But again, this has been the show where our signals do get crossed, but our swords always are. It's 3 words. Let's go Buffalo.